Well, here I find myself in the greenhouse again. I'm preparing to get ready to plant some of my second stage stuff here for the greenhouse. I have already planted, I have a little list here of the seeds that I have available to me to start my garden, and I do most of my gardening by seed. So I do my greenhouse in 2 phases. I do the plants that take a little bit longer of a growing season, and I start them in the beginning of March. Those are the plants I mentioned. I already have started over here in my last video, and like a goober yesterday, I said that these were impatiens. They're not, they're petunias. But I have my petunias and peppers and broccoli and all of the other plants that either can be harvested early in cool weather or else have a longer growing season, like peppers and celery. They do, especially in Wisconsin, to get some good peppers. We don't have a very long growing season, so we have to get them started early in the greenhouse. And then I have a list of the things I start mid-March, which are things that have a slightly shorter growing season, or just most of my plants that I start indoors in general. And the way I plant seeds in my greenhouse is typically, I do have some exceptions. I have some little tiny sectional peat pots here for the little flowers and stuff. I got these for free this year. I don't normally use these, but that's why they have flowers in them, because it's not, flowers are something that I enjoy for pleasure. I grow for pleasure, but I don't grow for eating or necessity. And so if I do end up having mold problems, which these peat containers, or whatever you call them, they do sometimes get a little moldy. You have to be careful with that. Not so much in the greenhouse, but if you're starting indoors in your house, that can be a real problem. Most of my plants, and especially my vegetables, I start in much larger pots than most people. These are about 4-inch in diameter. I do have some that are slightly larger, slightly taller. I have some round pots. Some of these are given to me by people who had purchased plants and they just saved the little pots. These I got at a greenhouse that was going out of business once. They were selling them for 10 cents a piece, and I really stocked up. I reuse these constantly, and the reason I use bigger pots, even though they take more soil and I have to purchase more dirt or prepare more dirt, the reason I use these bigger pots is because I'm able to get much nicer, much larger plants earlier in the season, and I don't need to transplant as an urgency. Sometimes with these little tiny pods, they outgrow them so quickly, the plants do, that they either start to get leggy, squished, their roots get intertwined. It's kind of an urgent thing where you need to transplant. And in Wisconsin, sometimes the weather in the end of May is beautiful. Sometimes the weather in the end of May is still winter-like or too cold, and you just maybe want to wait a week or two. And it's nice to have these larger pots so your plant has room to grow. So most of the pots I have prepared. These larger ones, I do start my squash indoors, my zucchini, pumpkins, winter squash, all of that. Most people don't, or a lot of people don't. Some people do. I've had good luck transferring them to the garden. I enjoy growing them indoors, but to do so you do have to have a rather large pot. So I use bigger pots on those. Even some of these good sized ones down here. And then all I do is I fill these guys up with an organic soil. I usually find one that's certified organic and that has a little bit of natural fertilizer already in it. This is my favorite at the moment. I used this the last couple of years, and it really is nice. The downside to having such large pots for seedlings is that it does take a lot of dirt. There are ways that you can use compost and peat and other things in your regular dirt soil. From outside, do a sifting process. There's all kinds of things you can do to fix your own dirt, to create your own potting soil. I just buy it. It's so much easier that way. So that's what I do. And then when it comes to actually planting the seeds, rule of thumb is whatever the size of the seed. I have some, these are cilantro seeds that I harvested from the garden last year. They're for my own plants. As far as seeds, I have a lot that I've saved myself from my plants. I have such a wide variety. People always ask what brand I recommend or who I go with, and I just have such a collection that there's things from all over. I have things from Mountain Valley. I have things that are burpy, which is pretty common in most stores. One of my favorite local, see if I can find something from him here. One of my favorite local gardeners is M.I. Gardener. He has a YouTube channel, which is fantastic. You can check him out. Some novelty seeds that have been just given to me. This one's kind of cute. Has a little picture of a pumpkin pie on there. So my seed collection really varies. But since you can clearly see these seeds and they're a good size, I'll use them as an example. When planting seeds, rule of thumb, typically the depth of the seed in the soil, how deep you want to plant it, is double the size of the seed. So these seeds are about, they're cilantro seeds, or coriander. So these are about 1/8 of an inch, 1/4 of an inch, and I would plant them double into the soil. So they'd go about between 1/4 and 1/2 inch under the soil. Then just keep it damp, warm, in the sun. Wait for things to grow and sprout. Keep them happy. It doesn't take long. These were only planted just last week. So next is filling pots, cleaning up in here, clearing out the dirt, moving aside anything extra I have, and yeah, getting her going. It's spring. Got moisture on the roof of the greenhouse, and the sun is shining, and it's warm and lovely, and it just feels like spring. Thank you. Happy